Welcome to my channel. Ben Franklin rides again. Please join Dave and I as we continue our trip across northern Peru and do a few motorcycle roadside repairs, some of which involve firewood. After we spent a lovely night in Barranca, after taking a stroll down the seaside and having a fine dinner, we headed out of the hotel the next morning looking for breakfast. We found an open restaurant and had a really nice ceviche with some seafood, and we're stoked for the trip on up the coast and then off into the mountains. We're on our way north on the Pan American Highway. Then at about Paramanga, we took an exit and turned north on a smaller road, the 16, to catch the 3N up through Haraz on our way to Yungay. About 6 easy hours, right? After breakfast, we headed out and did a quick pit stop for some gas and got on the Pan American Highway headed north. After a relatively short stint on the Pan American Highway, we jumped off onto the Highway 16 and got to enjoy a smaller road with lots of curves and quite a few potholes. After a few hours on the 16, the combination of potholes and pretty good wind buffeting brought about the first of several roadside repairs of the day. This one was relatively easy. The windscreen is secured with 4 bolts through a couple of rubber bushings that ended up pulling out through the rubber bushings. I was really lucky that my son happened to have a few washers in his toolkit, and we were able to stop and do a quick fix of putting some washers behind the nuts that had pulled through the rubber grommets on the windshield and get back on the road relatively quickly with a secure windshield.
Take off. Yep.
We gotta get a sheep picture. Yeah, get sheep. After a couple more hours of spirited riding on the twisties, we both had managed to burn through our tanks of gas, and it was time to pull into a station. This one was particularly interesting. We had both never seen sheep on a leash before, but here you go. Well, after a lunch stop in Haraz downtown with a really nice restaurant, uh, I noticed that around Jongus, maybe 20 kilometers past, the front end was getting really wobbly. There was also quite a bit of brake noise, even when they were not applied. So we stopped and decided that, hey, the front wheel bearings are shot. We continued on for a while and stopped again at Marikara near a real small Honda dealer, but there was no love there. They could order wheel bearings and they might arrive in a week or so. So that didn't sound like something that was going to work. We kept going and stopping at nearby businesses that looked like cycle shops until finally it got bad enough we decided to pull over in the shade and try and pull the bearings and see if we could match them up at anything that might be an auto parts or a implement store or that type of thing. And then fortune smiled upon us. We stopped in the shade near a big pile of firewood, which also happened to be near a moto taxi repair shop. My son is fluent in Spanish and negotiated the loan of a claw hammer. We used the available firewood in lieu of a center stand and beat the bearings out with the axle and a socket extension as tools. The bearings were shot and had been run with no seal on one side for who knows how long. Did I mention this is a Honda CB500X that was a Peruvian rental? It had just had fresh tires installed, but evidently it was too much trouble to look at the bearings and replace the front seal that had never been installed. As I mentioned, fortune smiled upon us, and we managed to buy one new and one used bearing for about $7 US from the wonderful gentleman at the motor taxi repair joint that had loaned us the claw hammer. We installed the fresh functional bearings using the old bearings to beat them into the hub and headed on up the road for the remainder of the day's journey. We were quite pleased to pull into the hotel parking lot for the evening. We even worked up the enthusiasm for about a mile walk to the nicer resort that we chose not to stay at, and we were the only guest in their rather upscale, fantastic restaurant. It was a delightful meal. Now would be a great time to hit the subscribe button. I don't want you to miss part three of this epic trip as we continue on some really interesting dirt roads up to about 16,000 feet in elevation and hang out at some glacial lakes. Until the next time when Ben Franklin rides again.